If you're actively seeking ways to build your mental toughness, navigate life transitions with grace, or simply find inspiration to keep moving forward, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast. Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast. In this particular episode, it's still part of the relationship series. We're actually going to cover how Kat and I met our life partners and the pros and cons of going into relationships and navigating them as well as keeping them.
Yeah. And if you want to.
Yeah, and if you want it, exactly. Do you actually want one? Do you want to stay single? Yeah, it's entirely up to you with what you choose to do. Yeah. So, Kat, did you want to go first with your little bit?
Sure. Interestingly, I feel like I came into this stage of my life at a bit of a disadvantage, quite honestly. My parents have 7 marriages between them, which is a lot.
So what not to do?
Sorry? Yeah. Good. Yeah, exactly. We don't do that. So, yeah. And my brother, I think, is on his 4th marriage. My sister, I think, gave up after marriage number 3. So
wow. Okay.
I can honestly say in my family on that side, they didn't really make a good job of marriage. It didn't really work out for them. So needless to say, I was extremely skeptical of long-term relationships. And when I'm on my 2nd marriage, but it actually is my final marriage. This is it. And I know that this time I've done a good job. The first time around, I didn't do a good job of finding the right partner. And this time around I have. But I approached it completely differently. And again, it always comes back to people say, I'm looking for this in a guy and I'm looking for that in a guy. And women, a lot of women say this is what the relationship is that I want. But there's a couple of things. Firstly, I think the most important thing to do, there's two things I think that are the key. Firstly, you must know yourself, right? We say this every time, don't we?
We do.
And it took me a long, long time to get mature enough to the age where and go through enough things away from my really tumultuous childhood and upbringing to get the stability to learn to know myself. So that was a very slow. So I didn't really get my head on straight really till I was about 40, honestly. Interesting.
And why do you think that was? Like when you're talking about not getting your head on straight, was that more to do with, as you said, the relationship with yourself, and it took you that long to start really respecting and setting boundaries and things like that? Okay.
Well, I think once I lost my daughter Charlotte, that was when I first started setting boundaries, and then my whole world shifted because, unfortunately, when you are surrounded by people that are there because you serve a purpose for them, once you start setting boundaries, they start attacking you for that.
Yeah.
And then that becomes when you're sort of on your shaky legs trying out this new purpose, this new thing of I'm going to follow what works for me inside me in life. Once you start getting attacked by your boundary crosses, that will knock you. That can knock you a lot. So that slowed me down a lot. I'm not blaming other people. I'm saying this is just my process that I went through, and I was slow. So probably, when I really got to the stage where I'd been with my ex-husband for nearly 15 years and said, I can't do this anymore. I've realised that you're just not the right person for me. We don't fit.
Yeah.
And I've evolved.
15 years, yeah. And that's the thing. It is about the relationships evolving, and it's about growing together. And sometimes you grow apart, as you're growing. It happens.
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be a thing where you hate each other's guts and it's totally full with angst and, how dare you leave me. My mindset was, oh, well, we're just no longer, my ex-husband used to say to me all the time, you're a little bit crazy, so you need to go and see the psychologist again because, you're getting a bit crazy again. That really backfired on him. Because I went to the psychologist and we worked through all of my family trauma and all of my stuff and my anxiety. That was when I was able to start processing, well, who am I? What do I like?
Yeah.
And then I woke up and went, I don't like that man. Shouldn't have sent me to the psychologist, should you? No.
Yeah. That failed. Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
For me, not for you.
But no, it was good. It was actually, I really don't like my ex-husband. I'll say that. He made our divorce process and thereafter excruciatingly bad. However, I will say this, I'm very grateful to him for sending me, even though his intention wasn't good. It was a controlling, undermining intention that he sent me there. It was great. And I was stupid enough to go, yes, I'll just go to the psychologist because you told me to go. But it was great that I went, because I found these amazing people that actually sort of led me out of the darkness and said, okay, you've got some anxiety and you've got some childhood trauma, and let's start exploring who you are. And they shifted that focus from being so focused on my partner to back on myself, because that's a mistake we make.
Yeah.
We think, and I see it a lot, we think if we just keep serving our partner, we keep caring for our partner and bending over backwards and being everything to them, that will make things work. It doesn't make things work.
No, it doesn't. No.
What about
You've got to
you?
be your own person. You've got to be your own person in the relationship. Yeah.
You have always been that person, but you and Jeff, I mean, you guys are both quite strong individuals, but it's really interesting, the dynamic. And you guys have been together a long time.
Yeah, almost 35 years.
Wow.
I think I'd have to count that, something like that, 35 years. But it's interesting. We've had our ups and downs, and that's the thing with, I suppose, any relationship, and especially when you're looking at relationships that have gone for quite a long time.
Yeah.
You do grow, as I said before, you grow as a person, you mature, regardless of whether you're actively doing personal growth or not. You will grow and evolve a bit. And it really is about growing together and supporting each other. And one thing, like when Jeff and I actually married, part of our wedding vows was about not being each other's shadow, but about holding each other's hand down our own path of life.
Oh,
so
I love that.
we've both got our own separate path in life, and we're just choosing to, hold each other's hands as we're going down our own paths. And so we support each other always in whatever endeavours the other person wants to do. Obviously, anything that has a major impact, that's going to have a major impact on our whether it's financial situation or our partnership or stuff like that, we will go and have a conversation with it before actually pursuing an idea. If it's going to impact, rather than, in some cases, some people just go off and do it and then they ask forgiveness afterwards. And that can really, really screw around with the relationship. So we've always been very upfront and open with our conversations. And I think it's that level of support and that still being individuals, but coming together and understanding that I don't own him and he doesn't own me.
Oh, I love that. That's such a big one.
Yeah, exactly. We are both separate people choosing to live life together. And so that's why, he is my life partner, because I choose to live my life with him. Have we had times where we've gone, we've had bad communication with each other? Absolutely. We're not perfect all the time, and I would never say that we are perfect. We are, as you said, we are both very strong personalities, and that means there has to be a bit of give and take on both sides. Sometimes you've got to go, am I being a bit stubborn? Am I, so take a step back. But interestingly enough, I mean, how I met Jeff, I would have been in my early 20s. I had just come out of, I say just, it would have been 8 months prior. I had come out of a relationship with a guy that I moved to New Zealand with. He was a Kiwi, and I lived in New Zealand for a couple of years with him. Now, interestingly enough, I thought he was amazing, this guy. And then when we moved to New Zealand, he started to change a bit. And I was obviously away from my family, away from my friends, totally new country, needed to meet new people. And he started to become a bit more controlling, and a little bit more, you could say, aggressive. And he was allowed to do things I wasn't allowed to do things, all of those types of things. And it was funny because my parents were together until my father passed away, and they had a very bad relationship. We've mentioned a little bit about it here and there. It was very domestic violence, all that type of thing. So I was very clear what I didn't want in a relationship. From when I left home. And I suppose that was part of that breaking that cycle, that DV cycle as well. I kind of went, I don't want to fall into the same pattern and have have a relationship with someone like my parents had. I'd prefer to remain single if that's the case. And so when I got together with the guy that I moved to New Zealand with, and he started behaving that way, I started basically rebelling and pushing back. And then I got to a point where I just went, I can't do this anymore, I'm leaving. And that's another story. So that'll be part of another series. But when I because what I looked at it is I kind of went, if I keep going down this path with this particular individual, I will end up having a relationship exactly like my parents.
Well, actually, you were already in a domestic violence relationship.
I was,
Mm.
but
That's
that
what
the
it was.
real the
Yeah.
courage to leave came
Yeah.
from that, which was I
Huge.
don't want that in my life. I had it
But
as a
you
kid.
also recognise that. You also
Yeah, I did.
recognise that, Eva, because that's what story that you've just told me is similar to the story that I've got with my ex-husband. He was amazing until I lost all of he moved me away from my social connections and my job and all my local things, and we moved away. And that was when the behaviour really changed because he had me. And that's a domestic violence behaviour, which is called isolating.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It is. So
Yeah.
anyway, I came back, and when I came back, it was I was young. I was I had just had my 21st birthday or something like that. So it was a couple of months after that I came back to Australia, and I was like, I hadn't gone night clubbing or stuff like that really previously, except when I was younger with my brother
Yeah.
for a certain period of time, and then I stopped night clubbing. And it was like being let loose, and I went crazy for about 8 months. I went clubbing all the time and all that type of stuff, and kept having these little never had one night stands. I just kept having these little shitty short relationships with people because I thought that's what you had to do. You go out to find the person that you're looking
Oh,
for,
yeah.
and did
Well,
that. I had a group of friends that I used to go out with, and then it just got to a point where I kind of went, I'm really over these bullshit little relationships. They
yeah,
mean
super
nothing.
shallow.
They really mean nothing. They're hollow. And I thought, I got very clear with myself, and I thought, okay, I'm happy to just go. If guys want to take me out to dinner or go to the movies or whatever, no problems. But I'm not going any further with them. I'm not going to
Yeah.
get in a relationship with them unless they meet these criteria. And I actually wrote myself a list
There
of
you go.
what I wanted, not just out of the individual, but also out of the relationship. And so I
Yeah.
wrote this entire list, and I thought, if I can't have this, then I'm just going to stay single unless this person comes along. I'm not going to fall for second best. This is the person that I'm looking for, and this is the type of relationship that I'm looking for. And it was so funny. And again, I didn't pick it up from anything. I think it was just me going through the processing stuff and going, what is it? What is it? I'm sick of this. I know I don't want this. So what is it that I do want? Get really clear on that. And if I can't have that, I'm not falling for second best.
And that's exactly what I did the second time around as well. I wrote a list. I actually engaged a psychologist when I was thinking about leaving my ex-husband, and I said, I need you to keep me on track. Because again, interestingly, that juxtaposition, you went, right, I'm going to go inside, I'm going to trust myself. And I was like, I can't trust myself, so I'm going to get some external information from someone who's professional.
Yeah.
But again, I did the same thing. I wrote a list of all the things I wanted. And this time around, I wrote, and I mean, look, power to you because you're only young when you did this. I was like, coming up to 40. I was, I don't know, 39, whatever I was. And I said, this time it's not about what he has or what he does or what he looks like. It's about, does he have a great sense of humor? Is he flexible in his mindset? Is he kind to me and my children? Is he able to show up and support me when I need it? These were the things I wanted in a person. And the biggest thing I wanted was someone with an appreciation of music and a good sense of humor, funnily, because I just, I need someone that can make me laugh because I'm a bit silly and a bit physical, and I needed someone that would be on that wavelength and the kindness and the consideration. So I don't want someone who's going to be, doting on me 24/7, just like you and Jeff. I wanted someone that would also allow me to have my own life, that didn't just see me as a mother and a worker. I didn't want that anymore.
No, exactly right. And it's interesting because I did the similar thing too with the traits, the personality traits. I also put down physical traits, and then I also put down how I want the whole relationship itself to be.
Yeah, I want it to be like this. I want it to feel like
and obviously those aspects of the relationship aren't really going to start unfolding until you're in it. So you're not going to really know until you're in it.
Yeah.
But I kind of put it out there and went, this is what I'm looking for. And I didn't expect to see that person, like bump into that person straight away or anything like that. I just kind of put it out there and went, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen. And if not, I'm just going to remain single. I prefer to be single and happy than to go into something that was going to,
Yeah.
Just for the sake of being in a relationship,
Yes.
just for the sake of not to feel lonely. And I think you only feel lonely when you mentioned it yourself, you don't have a good relationship with yourself.
But I never feel lonely. I think, oh God, thank God I'm alone. Oh,
Yeah, I'm the same. I love my peace and quiet. and and was, I don't know, I couldn't tell you exactly how long after, but it was probably, I'd say, within about 4 to 6 months of
really?
doing that. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, I met Jeff, and funny enough, I went out clubbing with the girls again, and I saw this guy talking to my brother, and
Oh,
because I
yeah.
happened to bump into my brother, and my brother wasn't someone I normally bumped into when I went out.
Hmm.
And there was my brother. So I went over to speak to my brother to say hello, and then I saw this guy standing next to him, and I was like, "Oh, gee, he's hot." And then my brother, turns out that they played footy together, and my brother actually introduced me to Jeff, and Jeff and I just stood there talking the entire night.
Yeah.
We, now I was someone, when I went clubbing, I'd go I'd be on the dance floor all the time. I love dancing and things like that, and hanging with my friends. My friends kept coming up to me going, "Are you going to come and dance? Do you want to, you're going to come and hang with us?" Like, no, I'm having a good conversation here. And I found him completely and utterly mentally stimulating.
Yeah, that's
And
totally different, isn't it? Yes,
yeah,
yes,
so even
exactly.
though he had the physical attributes,
Mm.
he was also highly intelligent, and I was captivated by his intelligence, because I love an intelligent mind,
Same.
and I love being able to have a good conversation, and so I was just standing there going, "Wow, this is really amazing." And before we know it, the club was closing
Yeah,
and the
right.
lights were coming on,
That
and I was
passage
going,
of time
"Shit."
had gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Jeff says to me, "Look, I'll give me your number. I'll call you." And I just looked at him and went, "Yeah, right." I just thought that was it. That was going to be it. So I gave him my number, and yeah, before I even woke up in the morning, he'd actually called.
Now that's a really, you know what? Can I just say, these games that the young people play, the young people, they go, oh, don't call too soon, don't do this, don't do that. If you're serious about someone, just call them.
Yeah, exactly. Mm.
How awesome is that?
So yeah, to cut a long story short, we were together for about 7 years before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another big thing that I was very clear on, that I was not going to, just rush into marriage with anybody, that I wanted to live that person first, because why would you not live with the person and then go and marry them and live with them, and you don't really know the person?
Yeah.
I know that there's some people that do that through religious reasons or what have you, or belief
Mm.
reasons.
Yeah.
But for me, it was really clear, because I suppose of the upbringing that I had.
Mm,
I
mm.
knew that a lot of people are very different behind closed doors
Oh, yeah.
than they are out in public, and so I was very clear that yes, I would live with that person first. And in fact, we actually bought a house together before we even got married.
Mm.
So yeah, so long story short, that's how we, how we came together. Now, but I was really clear in that thing of, if I don't find this person,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay single. Happy to date,
Yep.
but I'm just not going to get involved in a relationship, unless they meet
Yeah.
this criteria.
Not going to compromise myself,
No,
because that's exactly what I see that we do. And we're kind of taught, like our generation was kind of taught, that it's a bit
mm,
normal to compromise yourself. It's a bit normal to, marriage isn't great. It's not perfect. It's just one of those things we've got to do. No, I reject that.
yeah, so do
Marriage
I. So do I.
marriage has to be, if you're going to bother with marriage in our society where we've got loads of choices and loads of freedom, if you're going to bother with marriage, then just make sure that the person is right for you. They've got to have similar values to you.
They
So
do.
your
They do.
values have really got to be on the same level, because that's something that we don't really talk about these days. I think a lot of people we get involved in relationships based on surface level attractions. Like, it's nice to have someone that you're attracted to and you think they're pretty hot, but it's also not. What's really important is, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship with someone, like you said, you need to be able to live in their mind, live in
Yeah.
each other's minds, and
Yeah.
when you're sitting like a pair of old farts under your blanket and you can't do anything and you're old, if you can't have a good conversation and a good old laugh together, you're buggered.
Exactly. And the interesting thing too is, I can say for Jeff and I, our dreams are still very much so aligned,
Yeah.
with what we want to achieve in life. And
Yep.
even when we're doing different things, it's still very aligned.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that goes back to the values that we've got in life, as you were
Mm.
saying as well, and what we want to, I suppose, give back. as well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how we want to live, and all of that is still 100% aligned.
Yeah.
If that started to differ, then we'd probably sit down and have a conversation and go, this isn't
Yeah.
working, you know.
And I think values are like, they're like the window into your soul,
Yeah.
aren't they? So if
Mm.
you've got similar values around things, if you can both sit, like Joe and I will sit down and look at one another and go, oh, can you believe that? This is what I was thinking. And he'll be like, yeah, me too. That's an indication. That's a big green flag. If you can
Yeah.
share your innermost thoughts together and go, yeah, I was totally thinking that the whole time.
Yeah,
You know,
finishing each other's sentences, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
or saying something before that person even says it, and they're going, "Oh, it's exactly what you're saying. I was just thinking that."
Yeah. And also it's really interesting. I mean, look, this is a theory I've developed that's completely off by itself. That's got nothing to do with evidence or science whatsoever.
Mm,
I've just noticed that there are givers and there are takers
mm,
in relationships. Have you noticed that? So,
yeah.
you know, people who are givers are pretty honest, and they're pretty keen to, you know, invite you in and be generous and genuine, and they want that relationship from the get-go, and they offer that to you. And takers love to get hold of a giver, you
Mm.
know, because they love to get the giver to give to them. And so I think people do this, they don't even realize that they're doing this stuff. A giver and a taker together doesn't work.
No, no, they don't. Not at
Two
all.
givers together, absolute fire, brilliant. Two givers together will go, right, I can see you're feeling a bit low. What do I need? What support do you
Yeah.
need? Joe will say that to me. How can I support you on this one? I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. Stop talking dirty. How can I support you? You know what I mean? Like, it's fantastic. That's the best stuff. Yeah, it is. It's just
Yeah.
pure, it's just hot. Yeah.
It is. It's funny because if I go back to when Jeff and I first met, we moved in together after about, I think, 6 months of dating thereabouts, and then we moved in together, and I can't remember if it was within a year of moving in together, we actually broke up.
Yeah, right.
We broke up for 6 months because Jeff wanted to play the field, and I was like, well, you can't have both worlds.
Yeah,
So,
Jeffrey.
and you know,
Disgraceful.
he was still is a very good looking guy, and you know, a lot of women were chasing him wherever he'd go. He'd have, you know, women fawning over him, and it was because I was very clear on what I wanted, and I think he hadn't actually formulated that in his mind of how,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I came into his picture being really clear as to what I wanted in a relationship, where I wanted to go with a relationship, and he hadn't had that. He hadn't sat down and really figured that out. So when we actually parted ways, I had actually said to him, so if you come back knocking on my door and there happens to be another pair of shoes there, don't bother, because it
Don't
means
bother.
that person's better than you. You know? And
Sorry, I love Jeff, but I absolutely love how you handled that. That's awesome.
and then I ended up moving into state for a bit because I just had to, because it totally broke my heart. I thought I had met the person, the one, and in my mind and in my heart I was still very clear that I had, and but he had to figure that out, and
Yeah.
I had to let him. I had to
Yep.
let him figure that out for himself.
Yep.
And we were still in contact with each other. We hadn't actually stopped speaking with each other. And then I remember, I can't remember, it was within a 6-month period again after that, that he just kind of rang me out of the blue and sort of said, I really miss you. And ever since you've left, I feel as if I've been hit in the head with a hammer. And I'd really like to give this my all now. I think I'm ready to actually take this relationship, seriously. And it was like, okay. And I said, I'm not going to do it unless you are absolutely committed, because I don't want to have to go through this again.
No.
And so we just had that very open conversation, and then we came back together. I didn't move in with him straight away. I was living somewhere else, and we were just seeing each other. And then, mind you, we were spending the majority of the time together, so we may as well have been living together, but I still had my own place. And he was flatmating, he had a bunch of flatmates that he was staying with. And then eventually we ended up moving back in together. And ever since then, we've been together. So there was in that really early stage, and I suppose that goes back to being really clear.
Yep.
Both parties have to be very clear. Both parties have to be very clear, not just one.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I had a similar thing with Joe on different issues, and He has children with an ex, and he was in contact with that ex, and it was just, I was really uncomfortable about the way that she would communicate with him. She was very flirty-gurty. I could see she was keen to catch up with him all the time, and I put my boundaries down around that as well. And after a few conversations, I was studying at uni at the time, and I recognised, in fact, that Joe was probably on the spectrum. I said, I think, because, he would go through this pattern of being this fantastic, awesome human, and then he would get into a stage of overwhelm, and he wouldn't cope very well, and things would get quite, heated. And I was like, this is so odd, because this is not who you are as a person. Then when I was studying, it dawned on me, I think Joe's got ASD. I think that's what the go is. And I kind of I gave him a little bit of an ultimatum similarly, and I said, okay, I really, really do love you. I think there's a lot of future in our relationship, but I think you need to go and speak to a psychologist about having an ASD assessment. He wasn't keen. He wasn't keen on that. And I said, the reason is because of this, this, and this. These are the behaviors you exhibit, when you go into overwhelm, we end up in conflict because your brain is just too full. You can't process anything, and it's just too hard. So you need some support around that. I think if you go and get a diagnosis, that will be really good for you. And he was very resistant. And he said, why should I change for you? Why should I go and get my head read for you? And I said, it's not for me, it's for you. And no matter what happens, even if our relationship doesn't make it, it's really good for you to go and see someone, get a diagnosis, and then learn how to deal with your brain, which is wired a bit differently to the average.
Yep.
So, and that is your superpower. I don't really see it as a disability. People talk about it as a disability. I just see it as, it's not. I just see it as some fantastic difference. And I think I have to go and get a diagnosis as well. But anyway, that's another story. So he went off. He got a diagnosis. It took 3 sessions with a fantastic clinical psychologist who said, yeah, you've definitely, he sat there playing her his screeching noises and silly sounds group, where they all would find a noise like something going, really high pitch, or a door making a funny sound or whatever it was, and they'd send it to each other. And she'd go, have you got any odd, sort of stimuli you really enjoy for one of your senses in particular? And he said, do you mean like being in a silly sounds group? And she was sort of going, what's that? He goes, let me play it for you. And she was like, oh, yeah, no, turn that off. Yep. Okay, we'll tick that box. So, but yeah, initially he was devastated at that diagnosis, absolutely devastated. And then he continued to work with a clinical psychologist around managing himself. We set him up differently. We got him a room to put all of his vinyl records into. And every afternoon he has a bit of a ritual when he's home, because he works away a lot. He likes to watch, certain shows. He likes to watch trivia shows. Trivia shows are his thing, and play with his vinyl records. And when he was feeling overwhelmed, he would retreat into his room, because he'd go, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I can feel it coming on, away I go. It made a huge difference to him in the long run. Now he doesn't even really do that, because getting a diagnosis was so good for him. And that just, again, I pushed back on him for that, because I said, I can't live with the person who's going to be going through these highs and lows. I need you to get it looked at, because it's too exhausting, because I don't know, you're blowing up too much, and I don't want to live that. I want a life of peace.
Yeah. And it's also, and I don't understand why you're blowing up. Have I done something? Is it something part of your behavioural stuff? I don't know. Let's just work this out. So, yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing, so you will find, because I think that's fabulous that you guys had that conversation. And even though he was resistant, he still ended up following through. And now that's helped him in so many different ways. Yeah. And I think that's the good thing about when you are in a relationship or a partnership where you do support each other. Yeah. Because it really, really is about wanting to really see the best in that other person.
That's right. That's right.
It's not about, I want to pull you down, I want to do this.
No.
I want to see you shine. I want to see you be the best version of yourself. And I want to support you on that, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't matter what that looks like. Yeah. And if that means me also calling you out on certain things and sort of saying, hey, perhaps you need to do something here, or you doing that to me, then so be it. And, at first those conversations are a bit difficult. They're not easy conversations to have.
No.
But you need to have them. You have to have them.
That's it. We've all been sold this ridiculous story that, the princess was kissed by Prince Charming.
Yeah, and they live happy ever after. Yeah.
That's a lie. That is a lie.
Not a reality.
No, I mean, you can't bring together two flawed humans because, essentially we are flawed people. That's what we are. We'll always have flaws. We're human beings. We're
Exactly.
never going to be perfect. You can't bring two flawed individuals together and expect perfection. And the other thing I'd like to debunk is the ridiculous myth of soulmates, and you find the other half of your heart in the person.
Oh, what are they called? Twin
Flames, or whatever it is.
Yeah, something like that.
No, your heart is already whole. You're already worthy. You're already enough.
Exactly.
You don't actually
You
need
are whole with
to complete you. It's
a choice.
It is a choice
To have someone in your life.
That's right. It's like it's choosing to be, and it's a lot of work sometimes. I think at the start, I think if you're in a really healthy relationship at the start, you kind of have to do a fair bit of work.
You do.
You got to massage each other in the positions, different ways you want things to go. You've got to sort of say, look, I need you to have this mindset. I really hate it when you do this stuff. It really unsettles me. And then you find that balance. And then once you're at that point, you kind of cruise along until you sometimes hit crisis points, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I mean, if I reflect back on our relationship, as in Jeff and mine, up until we got married, it was very much like that. It was, you'd go in and out of commitment, non-commitment, non-commitment, and that's because I think immaturity is a part of that as well.
You guys were young. You were young.
Yeah, we were young. And it wasn't until we actually got married, even though as I said, we bought a house together and we did absolutely love each other, you'd still have these doubts. And part of that doubt came back to the lack of belief or insecurities within yourself.
Yeah.
So when you have insecurities that you're not dealing with and not willing to face, not willing to work on, it's going to show up. It's going to become a mirror in your relationship because that person is the closest person to you. So it's going to show up.
This is the arena that they play out in. Relationships is the arena that everything plays out in. That's, and I've seen that in lots of damaged youth when they get older and start having relationships, that is where it comes out. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And so it's really important for the, that self-reflection, to work on yourself, goes back to that personal growth. And I know for me, even though I was still, like, meditation was still a tool that I used to use a lot of back then, and I'd pick up the occasional, sort of personal growth book here and there, I wasn't an advocate of it as such. And it wasn't until after I went through my health crisis that I started to really delve into that. And that's when I started to really formulate a very good relationship with myself, was after that.
Yeah.
And through formulating that good relationship with myself, that just strengthened Jeff's and my relationship. And then he also started doing personal growth because he saw me, I suppose, not even improving, but shining. And he kind of went, well,
this is working.
I need to do this as well. You know?
That's interesting you say that, actually. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. You keep going. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because the thing with it is when one person does work on themselves and the other person doesn't, it goes back to the conversation we were having earlier on. You've got a very high chance of outgrowing that individual. And Jeff was committed to our relationship so much that he went, well, I want to grow with you. I don't want to be left behind. So he decided to also do his own stuff and to grow as an individual himself.
But he did it in a way that was for himself.
Correct, not
he
for me.
Didn't do it for you. And that's the difference. So what are the green flags that you're seeing here? The green flags are, well, actually, I want to grow along with my partner. I don't want to be left behind. It's not so much left behind. It's just, she's obviously really enjoying this. So what's so good about it? Okay, I'm going to engage in that too. And it's really interesting because when Joe and I first got together, he thought psychology was a load of rubbish. He thought personal growth was a load of rubbish, with his particular type of ASD, because it shows up differently in everyone. He doesn't have that mind's eye. So he can't hear his own inner monologue. His inner monologue is actually mostly Simpsons quotes. And movie lines,
That's like a wow.
Yes. So that's how his mind works, which I struggled to get to know at first. I was like, oh, wow, this is different. But at least he was honestly telling me how things worked, which I really appreciated. And I remember when he first sort of started hanging over at my house, he would see an amazing vinyl record online and go, "Oh shit!" And I'd be in the room, in the lounge room or wherever I was, and I'd just hear him shout out, "Shit!" And I'd be like, "Oh, what's happened? What's happened?" And he would go, "Oh, I just found a really good vinyl record online," and all of us would be like cats on a hot tin roof. And I said, "Do you know what, hun? I'm really sorry. We've got to have a conversation, and that is that I like to have a very nice, peaceful household, and you can't just go shouting, 'Oh shit,' at the top of your lungs, out of nowhere all the time, because it makes all of us jump out of our skin."
Yeah.
And that I had one conversation with him about it. He never did it again.
See, took it on.
Yeah. That's the total difference. I've been in a relationship where I'd have these conversations. We'd sit up half the night talking while I attempted to save things, and then he'd go, "Yes, I totally get it." And then 6 weeks later, the behavior had slipped straight back into whatever it was, and he hadn't fulfilled his promises, and he hadn't gone and made any changes to his life. He hadn't done anything. Now that is the opposite. That's the red flag.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, when I was living in New Zealand, I started suffering from a bit of depression, and when we went to a doctor, the doctor said to me, "Yeah, it sounds like you got depression." I was like, "Oh, really?" And I was a bit like, "Wow, I've never been depressed before. Is this what depression looks like?" And I was depressed because I was in a small town in New Zealand. I was young. I wasn't really. All I really wanted to do was travel the world. And I came to New Zealand with the expectation that we were going to travel around New Zealand a bit too. That didn't really happen. And we went back to his, where his family town was and all that type of stuff. And and I just felt totally isolated. I had some friends there that I'd met, but they were also his friends. And when I got diagnosed with it and I went home and kind of went, "Oh, well, this is what the doctor said, and so I'm going to really need your support." And he just brushed it off, and I kind of went, "Okay, so that's how you see me, and that's how much you respect this relationship." And so that was a big red flag. I mean, there were other red flags as well, but that was coming towards the end when I was going, "Okay, I think it's time to move on.
I'm not settling for this. I'm not settling for this behavior." Because we do, I think that's the issue, is we settle for things that are less than what we deserve. And why do we do that? Because, like you said, we're afraid of being alone. Why do you think women are afraid of being alone? I'm talking about women. I mean, men also, but why do you think, we'll say everybody is so determined to be in a relationship versus just being alone?
I'd say there's a couple of elements. There's what society expects. There's you're meant to, you go to university, you fall in love, you get married, you have children, you find a good job, you build up debt, all that type of stuff. That's all part of the expectation of society, that you're meant to get into a relationship. And if you think in society as well, what do they call a single woman, and especially as she gets older, a spinster. And then when she's got cats, it's like spinster with cats. And it's really quite frowned upon. But it's not frowned upon if an older guy is single.
Oh no, he's a hot bachelor.
He's a hot bachelor. So it's fascinating, how you've got those two stereotypes. So I think that may be an element of it as well. And then I also believe, and we've touched on this already, is the relationship you have with yourself. If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, you won't want to be alone.
No.
You'll even find, not even from having a life partner, you'll also want to be surrounded by people all the time, regardless. You'll always want to have people. Because you just don't like your own company,
Yeah, there's a huge difference between being alone and being lonely.
Yeah, there is. And I think insecurity also plays another part on it, because people will reflect back on their partner. Like if they've got a partner, this is who I am. So I've got a partner in my life. And they, rather than going, I can stand on my own 2 feet and I'm just as important in my own, just where I am, who I'm being.
It's really interesting, isn't it? There's a lot of cultural stuff. I know that Joe, my husband, went to a mine site once, and he was just talking to the new people that he was meeting, and this woman walked over to him and shook his hand, and he said, "Hello, what's your name?" And she said, "I'm such and such wife." She didn't give her name because she was married to the general manager or whatever. And she just said, and she worked there in her own right. She had her own job and her own education, but she just said, "I'm such and such's wife."
No.
No, love, you've got your own stuff going on, and you are an individual. Yeah. Which
You are your own person.
leads me to the footy goalposts definition of a good, healthy relationship that I used
Yeah,
to
I
tell.
mean, gosh,
This is,
some
I
people
mean,
just want to have something nice on their arm,
yeah, they
whether
do.
that's
Yeah, they do.
like, look what I've got on my arm, and that's enough. And
Yeah,
I want more than that in a relationship. If I'm going to be in a relationship, I want it to be a deeper relationship. I want it to be mentally stimulating.
yeah,
I want there to still be an attraction to that
yeah,
person.
yeah.
Yeah, and joy, and
Mm,
to experience life together, and to enjoy that experiences together.
that's right.
That's what it's really about, to share that with someone, and to be able
Yeah,
to reminisce on certain times, or
yeah,
or when you do experience it at that time, go, how great is this? And someone you can
yeah.
bounce on. So they're not only your lover, they're also your best friend.
Your best friend. I was just about to
Yeah.
say that your best friend, and they're the person. It was funny because Joe rang me the other night when he was coming back from Perth. I said, "How's things?" He goes, "I'm sitting here. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm really having a good night, and I just wish you were here to share it with me because I love it when you're here, and then we can go, oh God, this is great, and we will.
Yeah.
They're going, oh, this is awesome, and then we can talk about
Yeah.
that. The person you want to create memories with is your favorite person.
Exactly.
Mm.
So that's yeah. To answer your question, that's really how I see it. It comes back to two elements: society, as well as how
Yeah.
you are within yourself. Do
Yeah.
you like who you are?
Right.
Are you allowing your insecurities to run your life, or are you learning to shine from the inside out?
Big difference. And I know, of course, the other thing is, I knew that when I was thinking of leaving my ex-husband, I actually went to a psychologist to get permission to go because I felt
Ah,
so bad about it. I felt so bad. I said, he doesn't drink to excess, he doesn't gamble, he doesn't hit me, but I'm desperately unhappy. And she said, oh, okay. And we unpacked a few more things. And she said, oh, but he does manipulate you and he financially controls you. And yeah, he doesn't respect you and you don't trust him and you no longer love him or respect him. So I give you permission to leave. And I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. Because I was pushing myself to stay
yeah,
in
yeah,
that marriage because we had 2 children and I felt that I shouldn't break up because I felt, that's the other thing. We'll stay together for the children. Well, this psychologist totally debunked that. She said the worst thing you can do is stay together for the children because it creates, like you grew up in, an awful pressure cooker type environment where all you're doing is suffering and watching your parents suffer and then continuing. It just goes around in this awful cycle. It's actually the worst thing you can do. If you're desperately
oh,
unhappy, don't
yeah,
stay together for the children because,
yeah,
these poor kids have to grow up in that environment.
yeah.
Terrible
They do,
thing.
and it's quite traumatic for them.
It's tremendously traumatic. It's
Yeah, it's
horrendous.
terrible. It's terrible.
Mm.
So I would highly recommend to people that look for the green flags, as you were talking about.
Yeah.
If you see red flags, well, yeah, that's a good sign and indication to step away. But if you see lots of green flags,
Green flags.
move forward and do a list. Definitely do a list. I mean, I know that you said you did that. I did that.
I did.
Yeah.
My
And I'm
psychologist
sure
suggested it.
there are other people, and I've shared that with so many friends
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
such a good one.
How do you and Jeff know? Because similar to what you've said, you and Jeff have been together for a long time, and you seem really, strong together. And it's like, yeah, and and they like, when did you meet? How did you meet? And I said, well, we met here, but I was very clear as to what I was looking for.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was too. I was too.
so,
And I wrote
yeah,
that list. My the psych that I select, coach me through the divorce process. That's what I asked for. She said to me, when you're ready, you need to write your list and this is the very scientific side of it, right? She said, write it like a job like a job ad. I said, what do you mean? She said,
yeah,
when employers are asking for people that they want to come and work for them, they say, well, here are the essential requirements. Here are the desirable requirements, and here are my must to haves. And
exactly.
she said, because no one's going to be 100% perfect.
No,
But she said, really figure out what your essentials are. And I said, gosh, that sounds so cold and so hard hearted. It sounds like I'm just some sort of awful woman, like trying to, find the perfect man that will suit my desires and all the things. And she said, it does sort of, if you look at it that way. But she said, if you look at it from another perspective, she said, falling in love and being with someone in the long term, it's half heart and half head
yeah,
because we all, when we get around someone who we think is really hot and really wonderful, we get all this limerence, right? Which is when you get oxytocin coursing through the veins, and you look at them and you can't see their flaws. You can't see anything wrong with them because you think they're the most amazing thing on two legs. Now, you've got to stay with that person for at least 2 years before you think about marrying them. And you have to also make sure that you've seen them during times where they're really on the out. They're really on the downer. Like, how do they handle confrontation? How do they handle crisis? How do they handle you pushing back on them and saying no? Say no early in the piece and see what they do. If they react with, oh, righto then, you're good. If they react with manipulation or guilt trips or trying to push back on your boundaries.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing you mentioned, boundaries. That's really, really, really important. Absolutely. If I go back to the list as well, it's when you're talking about the physical attributes, there was only two, like out of all the list, there was only two things that Jeff did not actually tick the boxes on. He didn't have blue eyes and he wasn't over 6 foot tall. He was smack on 6 foot, but he wasn't over 6 foot.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was funny. That were the only two things. And he like when I share that with friends, when friends kind of ask about the story and, or, you know, new friends, Jeff always turns around and goes, "You got to tell them what I didn't meet on the list."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there were only two things that he didn't meet on the list. So I told Jeff about the list after, you know, like
I told Joe about the list
6 months later or 8 months after I wrote a list, and I think I may have even had the list with me still.
Yeah,
can't remember now.
I've got it on my iPhone.
But
I've got it on my iPhone and it stayed there. And
I
did the same thing and I shared it with him. And the only physical attribute that I asked for, because I'm 6 foot tall, is I said I wanted a guy about 6'4" because I don't want to be with a guy that's shorter than me. I just can't do it. And he's bang on 6'4", and I didn't ask for anything else. So, you know, he walks with a limp. He's got gammy teeth, got dodgy old teeth, and you know, I just love him anyway because he's my favourite person.
And that's what it is. They are your favourite person in the world, and you can't really see life without them.
So. No, I'd be so bored. Yeah. I'd be so bored if I didn't have him to talk to about stuff. Like, I'm not hanging off him, like you say. And like I said to you before, the footy goalposts, it's a drawing I always would do with particularly female survivors of domestic violence, and male domestic violence offenders, because a lot of times they're, you know, very dependent upon their partner, which is why they get so angry and they can't see that. So it's kind of like if you imagine two human beings, but they're actually shaped like footy goalposts. So you've got the crossbar and they look like an 8, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, what do you think holds footy goalposts into the ground? And it's actually these great big long pylons of concrete. Because would you believe they get a lot of, you know, wind and they're quite large structures.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense.
So when I'm talking about the concept of relationships, what is it that makes these two footy goalposts? So the ideal relationship, I suppose, is two footy goalposts with a link between them, like that. So that if the link breaks, they're both strong and they can still stand. Yeah. But that link is important. But underneath them, what are the concrete pylons made of? Well, they're made of your family, your friendships, your hobbies, your interests, perhaps your religious beliefs, your community, your work, your education, your ongoing personal growth. When you've got all of that stuff going on, your relationship with yourself, you are strong. So that if that breaks, you're going to wobble a little bit, but you're okay and you'll continue on, you know, because relationships always end. They always end. You either one leaves or one dies.
Yeah, exactly. It's bound to happen. Yeah.
At some point. As horrendous as that is, we don't like to think about it, but you have to be really mindful about making yourself strong, firm, grounded, so that if you're the one left behind for whatever reason, you can still...
you can get on and do what you need to do. And, you know, in that instance, you still have fond memories of the individual, even if it's been a nasty breakup, you know, you still made some good memories together. There's some good memories. And it's to remember those and then just move on with your life. And even if it's the person has passed, you know, they've hit their D-Day, then same sort of thing. You've got to be able to go through your mourning, but you've still got to be able to live life. Yeah. And your life can't just stop because that individual has actually moved.
Because you're interdependent, you're not codependent.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, the alternative to being a footy goalpost is to just being in a relationship like that, where you're both leaning on one another, and if one falls, the other collapses.
Yeah, the other one collapses. Yeah.
You don't want that. No.
And that doesn't help anybody at all in the long run.
Or
Not at
you've
all.
got a footy goalpost that's strong, and then someone who's leaning against them, and the footy goalpost moves away, and then that person collapses.
Yep, collapses. Yeah.
That's why, again, every single time it comes back to the relationship you have with yourself. If that isn't right, or you feel that's not working, then the scary part of that is you've got to do a lot of work. But the exhilarating part of that is that that's completely within your control.
It is. It is. And when you end up formulating a really good relationship with yourself anyway, you'll find that the relationships you have with others in life improve.
Yeah.
And the relationships that aren't good will actually fall away.
That's right.
So you end up just having very strong, good relationships in your life because of how you are treating and respecting yourself. Because how you treat and respect yourself is how others will also treat and respect you. So if you don't treat yourself well and you don't respect yourself, well, guess what? That's how others are going to treat you as well.
And that gives you so much peace, because I think I said to you the other day, I bumped into someone that was sort of trying to throw a little bit of shade at me about things. And when you are sort of grounded in yourself, and you know what you want and you know what you're about, you just go,
Yeah, exactly. It's water off a duck's back. So it doesn't really matter.
Instead of sitting there agonizing over it for bloody weeks, which I probably would have done when I was a lot younger, going, oh my God, I said this.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I suppose, in essence, it is being very clear as to what you're after. It is being clear about the green flags and seeing those, working on yourself so you can not just have a better relationship with yourself, but have a better relationship with those you meet in your life.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries is another really important one.
Yep.
And I suppose the key success to an ongoing relationship is all those small actions that you take all the time.
Yes.
Don't take each other for granted, because as soon as you start taking each other for granted, it's that's probably a really bad sign for a relationship,
Right.
And you hear a lot when people can be in a relationship, but they're still lonely within that relationship.
And they're sad, and they're always going, oh God, why? I've had friends that go, God, I really wished I could, have a relationship like yours. And my heart breaks for them. And I think, wow, you actually do deserve that.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone deserves that. And if you can't find it, then I believe that it's okay to be single. It's okay to just enjoy your life being you and having the best relationship you can with you. And if someone happens to come into your life that can add benefit to that,
that's right,
and you both shine together, then by all means go for it.
Don't look for it. Just shine on yourself.
Let it come to you.
That's right. Work on yourself. Your energy will change. You will get really clear on things anyway. And funnily, the universe has a way of bringing things to you in the right time.
It does. Yeah, it does. And usually in ways that you don't realize. So
yeah.
So I suppose on that note, if you've got any insights, or had any insights, should I say, or got any questions, please feel free to join our Facebook community page. You'll find us under the Art. Is it? Yeah, it is the Art of Beautiful Thinking Community Podcast. Gosh, can't even get that out. And we do have some free tools. So there is a tool we mentioned, I think, on our personal growth one. We've got a personal growth guide there. That's a bit of a checklist. That's a free resource on our website. Go there and go for it. And then take that first step in recognizing what are the areas that you want to work in. And the other thing, write that list. Write that list of that partner that you want in your life. And if you happen to have a partner already in your life, just become a better version of each other.
Exactly.
All right. So farewell and until next time. Ciao.
Bye.
We'd like to say a huge thank you to our incredible audience for your continued support. Our mission is to ignite your spark, empowering you to be a beacon of light for others. We'd love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions that you would like answered in future episodes, or just want to share some insights, connect with us on our Facebook community page. If you're looking for additional resources, go to our website. You'll find the link below. And remember, the absolute best way to help us grow is to share this episode with your friends and family and to subscribe to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast. So until next time, think beautifully and live brilliantly.